If the dusk of history is doomed to fall, would you choose to fade away gracefully, or burn out all your frenzy upon the ruins? In the 2nd century BC, on the Greek peninsula, Sparta, the ancient city-state once famed for iron blood and dignity, drew near the end of its days. People always recall the warriors of Thermopylae and unbreakable shields when speaking of Sparta, yet few remember Nabis. Tonight, let us listen to this story unhurriedly beside flickering flames and explore his true life. He was the last independent ruler of Sparta, but chroniclers of his time branded him a vicious tyrant steeped in blood. They claimed he devised cruel torture devices, forced noble Spartan women to marry humble slaves, and labeled him a savage breaking all traditions. Nevertheless, this man condemned across Greece shattered centuries-old shackles for the oppressed when the city-state sank into despair. He redistributed aristocratic lands to the homeless poor, breaking completely with the classical order with radical and resolute reforms. Pressed by Roman legions and the Greek alliance, Nabis stood alone like a desperate gambler, safeguarding the last glimmer of hope for Sparta amid countless foes. Was he a reckless madman or a tragic hero born out of his time? The truth has long been buried by time. Night falls and gentle winds blow. Let bygones rest in darkness as we embrace this final elegy of destruction and struggle. The story begins not with glory, but an irreparable crack tearing apart the ancient empire. When Nabis seized power amid historical haze, the once mighty Mediterranean military power was reduced to an empty shell. Tens of thousands of elite soldiers dwindled to merely hundreds of qualified citizens. A tiny circle of nobles and wealthy women seized vast territories, leaving most Spartans landless and destitute. At the bottom of the social hierarchy lay the oppressed helots, enslaved for generations without freedom. The whole nation resembled a rotting house, retaining its former majesty on the surface while decaying thoroughly inside. Standing before the palace window, Nabis witnessed the lifeless streets and sensed the approaching tide of fate. Rome expanded eastward while the Achaean League lurked nearby. Stubborn nobles clung to privileges and refused any reform. Nabis woke up anxious each dawn, fully aware that inaction would lead Sparta to collapse from within. Mild improvements and persuasion could only invite ridicule. Unbound by obsolete laws and filled with rebellious spirit, he resolved to dismantle the crumbling old world himself. This marked the start of his irreversible journey, ending all peace and tranquility. Thunder loomed over Sparta, striking fear into arrogant nobles. Rejecting compromise, Nabis struck fiercely against age-old conventions. Armies sealed streets on a gloomy night, arresting wealthy conservative nobles and sentencing them to exile. He calmly signed decrees of execution and property confiscation inside the dim hall. Lands seized from nobles were granted to impoverished citizens and neglected mercenaries. His boldest move shocked all Greece, the emancipation of helot slaves. For centuries, these laborers endured humiliation and violence, and now they gained long-denied freedom. Freed slaves were armed, enlisted into corps troops and granted citizenship. Historian Polybius criticized his acts of displacing noble husbands and marrying elite women to former slaves, deeming such conduct immoral and heretical. Indifferent to public outrage, Nabis savored the cheers of new recruits, knowing he had alienated all Greek nobles with no retreat left. Liberated slaves became his staunchest defenders, facing re-enslavement should Nabis fall. He wagered Sparta's destiny on the marginalized rebels. Standing alone, he transformed into a solitary formidable figure shrouded in darkness. Wars extend far beyond city walls, and greater storms brewed at sea as Nabis sought funds to sustain his growing army. Sparta allied with notorious Cretan pirates, raiding merchant vessels across the Aegean Sea. Docks were built at Gythium to rebuild maritime dominance and restore Sparta's naval prestige. Neighboring states, especially the Achaean League, grew deeply alarmed by the rising unconventional power. They feared emancipation ideas would inspire slave uprisings threatening aristocratic rule. Propaganda campaigns portrayed Nabis as a cruel tyrant. Tales spread of a life-sized mechanical statue embedded with hidden needles, used to torture wealthy resistors. Modern scholars suspect these slanders fabricated by victorious rivals. Tired yet unperturbed by rumors, Nabis understood that might determines historical judgment. Staring at the map, he awaited the inevitable coalition invasion. Waves crashed against rocks like a countdown, leaving him isolated to confront the upcoming decisive battle. Rome set its sights on Sparta as darkness enveloped Greece. In 195 BC, General Flamininus led a massive allied army composed of Roman legions, the Achaean League, Rhodes and Pergamon, besieging the isolated city with over 50,000 well-equipped soldiers. The entire world awaited Sparta's defeat. Against overwhelming odds, Nabis displayed extraordinary resilience and political wisdom. He eliminated internal traitors and rallied citizens, warning freed slaves of impending re-enslavement. United residents defended every street bravely. Nabis fought bravely amid battles, sustaining numerous wounds. Houses near gates were burned to block enemy advances, halting Roman assaults with heavy casualties. Acknowledging huge potential losses, Rome opted for negotiations. Nabis secured humiliating survival by surrendering ports, fleets and paying heavy reparations. Standing on ruined walls, he grieved over his devastated homeland, uncertain how long Sparta could linger on. Peace brought no end, only suspense before further chaos. Deprived of maritime strength, Sparta's economy collapsed in despair. Nabis aged rapidly, haunted by loneliness and suspicion. Sleepless nights were spent wandering empty corridors, wary of lurking assassins and noble spies. He often questioned whether his radical reforms were worthwhile. When Antiochus III marched into Greece to challenge Roman supremacy, Nabis seized the risky chance to reclaim lost territories. Initial victories against the Achaean League brought fleeting hope, yet subsequent defeats exhausted his military strength. Desperate pleas for aid reached the Aetolian League, whose cavalry troops were warmly welcomed into Sparta. Unbeknownst to Nabis, hidden betrayal lay behind friendly gestures, foreshadowing the city's tragic fate. Betrayal arrived abruptly on an ordinary morning. While inspecting drills, Nabis was attacked by seemingly allied Aetolian officers. Knocked down suddenly, he was fatally stabbed, realizing the malicious conspiracy too late. Enraged soldiers eliminated the assassins, yet could not save their dying ruler. Nabis' passing stripped Sparta of its last chance for independence. The city was absorbed into the Achaean League, ancient laws abolished and defensive walls demolished. Freed slaves were rechained, all struggles ending in vain. Wind swept dust over bloody grounds, concluding Nabis' turbulent reign with a dishonorable assassination. Time erases all conflicts and grievances. Historical records still label Nabis as a ruthless tyrant, written from the victor's perspective ignoring his genuine intentions. Looking past biased accounts, we recognize his foresight in saving the decaying city-state. His emancipation reforms challenged aristocratic dominance ahead of his era. Though Sparta ultimately perished, his fierce resistance testified to the city-state's final vitality. Flawed and ruthless amid cruel times, Nabis remained a memorable tragic hero who fought stubbornly till the end. Stars still shine over Laconia and the Eurotas River flows endlessly, witnessing forgotten histories. Legends of torture devices, pirate alliances and wartime flames fade into distant memories. Let this tale ease daily restlessness and calm restless minds. Leave behind ancient wars and betrayals, drift peacefully into sweet dreams. Good night.